I'm making this video so you can draw a 4-leaf clover for St. Patrick's Day, but even if March 17th has already passed by the time you watch this, it's always a lucky time to draw a 4-leaf clover. So let's do an illustrative one and a realistic one. For the drawing, I'm going to go for a green pencil. This happens to be a Dixon Ticonderoga, HB, or number 2. So this illustrative 4-leaf clover, we're going to start with 4 circles. And you can just arrange them 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. Make sure your lines are nice and light because you're going to want to erase a lot of these or maybe adjust them. And we'll put a little stem at the bottom. Okay, see that point right there, right in the middle? We're going to use that as a guide. Now the idea is to draw basically 4 heart shapes, where the bottom of each heart, the point of the heart, will point toward that middle dot. So in other words, the hearts are kind of on a diagonal. And you can just kind of take your time. You might want to draw a little center line guide to help you figure out where the middle of each heart is. And just take your time and draw each heart. You can use a heart stencil if you want your hearts really perfect. But for this exercise, I'll just freehand them. So you just draw that center line and then draw the heart around it. Just keep going around until you have all 4 done. And then drawing the stem, that's really easy. That's just a skinny rectangle. Now with all the guidelines done, you can grab a dark marker or a softer pencil, something a little darker, and go over all of your lines that you like. You don't need to put these little center lines in if you don't want to, but I will. Just a little flourish, I guess. So the next step is to grab an eraser. I'm using a kneadable eraser or gum eraser here. And I'm just going to erase all of the guidelines, leaving only that dark pencil that I put down. Okay, now I'll grab my colored pencils. I have a bunch of greens to choose from. I'll go with this brighter, lighter green here. It's kind of a lime green. So the thing about illustrative drawings, they typically don't have a lot of 3-dimensionality to them. They don't have a lot of shading or even a bunch of different colors. So I'm just going to color these in very flat. Just with one color, and I'm going to color it in all of the same pressure. So not too light, not too dark. Just going around the entire drawing and coloring the whole thing in. There's my 4-leaf clover in an illustrative mode. So with that done, let's move to the realistic drawing. And instead of a heart, I'm going to go with more of a guitar pick shape. This realistic one will not be symmetrical. That's a really important point. We usually don't see this kind of intense symmetry in natural objects. So not quite so rounded where you might see the top of the heart. It doesn't have that little indentation. Notice how the one on the right is slightly lower than the one on the left, but they're basically the same size. They don't have to be exactly the same shape either. Now this bottom one, I'm going to move it to the left a little bit, and I'm going to tuck it slightly underneath that left leaf. And it's going to create an overlap, which will be nice because I'll put a shadow in later. And I'll draw one on the top here, and this one will be kind of tucked behind those 2 in the middle, the left and the right one. And the stem I'll have sticking out on an angle. And I'm just over here. Okay, let's draw one center line for each leaf. And now we'll put in that little divot, kind of where the top of the heart would be. So here, 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 and here. You notice that the divot isn't really pronounced, not like the illustrative one. It's just a very slight divot on all 4 sides. I'm going to put a little shine or a pattern, just a kind of a ring pattern all the way around the middle of each leaf. I'll just pencil that in now so that when I color later on, I know where to leave light. And the next step, I might just make some indications about where I want some of that cast shadow. So it's a little bit on that top leaf, and a bigger cast shadow on the bottom leaf, and maybe a little bit more here on the right leaf. Now I'm going to lock in those lines by pressing down harder, and it's going to be the same technique. I'm going to outline the whole thing, and then I'm going to basically erase everything, leaving only an impression of these darker lines. I'll just go around the whole drawing now and locking in my final lines. That stem looks a little low to me, so I'll just erase that and redraw it here. For colors, you can use as many colors as you like. This is supposed to be realistic, but at minimum, you should choose a light green, a middle green, and a dark green. But typically realistic drawings use a lot more than just the 3 colors. But these are the 3 I've chosen. The light green will be for the highlights, the middle green will be for just the regular color of the leaf, and then the dark green will be for the shadows. Let's grab the eraser and erase all of the extra lines, the construction lines, and I'm just left with that kind of shadow of my final drawing. All right, grabbing my lightest green first, the highlight green, I'm just going to start working my way around the outside and also on one side of that center line of each leaf. I'm going to do that with all 4. And color the stem as well. Now we'll grab my darkest green. That'll be for the shadow. And I'll drop in a shadow here. And another bigger one on this bottom leaf. I can also color in this stem at this point as it goes underneath that leaf and on both sides of the stem. Okay, here's the center line of each leaf. And I'll very lightly use my darkest green just to accentuate that center line. By the way, in the Irish tradition, 4-leaf clover is extremely lucky to find. You can only find one in about 10,000 regular clovers. Traditionally, the 4 leaves of the 4-leaf clover stand for hope and faith and love and family. Okay, I'll just put a little bit more of a shadow with that darkest green here. Now I'm going to grab that middle green, not the highlight and not the shadow one, but the middle one, and start coloring in the leaves. The thing with using colored pencils to draw realism is typically you have more than one color in an area, so you're going to build it up. So my plan here is to use this middle green to color in an area and then go back over that middle green with that lighter green to give it a more of a richer texture. So I'll do the same thing here. Put down a base of the middle green and then grab my brighter, lighter green and just kind of activate that color. So let's work my way around all 4 of the leaves, doing the same thing. Put down a base of the middle green and then activate it with that highlight color. If you got value from this content, I really do appreciate your support by leaving me a like or a comment or even saving or sharing the video. It helps boost the algorithm and helps me bring you free content. If you're celebrating St. Paddy's Day this year, please do it responsibly, and I'll see you in the next video.